Thanks. Hello, everyone. I got the spot right after lunch. How lucky I am. So to get this started, I need to wake you up a bit. What's better, iOS or Android? OK. Sketch or Photoshop? What do you prefer? What? XP? OK, so my name is Eli, and I live in Israel with my wife and 2 kids. And oh, thank you. I work for Facebook. I've been working for Facebook for the past 6 years, and I'm an iOS engineer. This is all important for the content of my talk. And today what I'm going to talk to you about is how to make your professional dreams come true. This is a big title, right, with lots of ambition. I'm going to break it down. I assume most of you, if not all of you, have some professional dreams, or I'll use the word goal or ambition interchangeably with dream. And I'd like to outline a plan or a manual, a handbook of how you can make these dreams come true, how you can reach your goals. Now, I must admit, I'm a very cynical person. I usually, if I see talks with this title, I don't show up at all. I'll try to make it very practical with examples, and hopefully it will inspire you to just go out and get what you're after. And I need some illustrations to make my point clear to everyone. So here's a very advanced illustration. Let's say that you are there in one side of the chasm, and then there is a goal in the other side. It's far away. You can't just reach out and grab it. Otherwise, it's not that an ambitious goal, right? And let's see, what can you do to get from where you're currently at to where you want to be? First of all, I want to start with some rules. Here are the requirements for a good goal, a quality goal, a goal that is reasonable. The requirements are, it has to be a realistic goal, right? You can't try to get somewhere that is just not realistic, like I want to fly to Mars. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. It's a bit unrealistic, and you'll need minor milestones in the way to get there. So let's talk about those milestones first. An example of a non-realistic goal, let's say I want to go out with Melania Trump, right? So it's a bit unrealistic due to several reasons. One of them is that she's married to the President of the United States. That's one problem. The second is apparently she's into older men. I'm not quite there yet. And the third thing is that I think my wife would object. So these all prevent me from reaching this goal. It's not realistic. So that doesn't count. Next, the goal you choose, you need to be qualified to fulfill the goal you're after. Okay? You need to want something that you're capable of doing. Otherwise, it will cause a lot of frustration for you and for people that are affected. For example, I want to replace Mark as the CEO of Facebook. Now, you might think that I'm well-positioned to do that, working at Facebook, right? All I need to do is get a few promotions, move up the ladder, and then I'll be there. I can replace Mark. But to be honest, I don't think I'm qualified for the job. Okay, I might be able somehow to get there. Let's assume for a second. But as I said, it will end with a lot of frustration to me, to people working on Facebook, to everyone who's using the service. I'm not qualified, basically. So this is not a good goal. The third requirement, and the last one, is that you need to really, really want to achieve that goal. Right? You need to really want it. You need to want it so much that you're willing to give up other things for it. Okay? You need to be willing to invest money, if that's what it takes, or time, or other things. But you need to really want it. An example, I really want to have a six-pack, right, in my abs. I really, really want it, honestly. And I think it's a realistic goal. I mean, I've seen people do it. And I believe I'm qualified because I know how to do push-ups, and I have I go to the gym every now and then. So the previous two criteria are okay. The problem is I don't want it bad enough to give up on bread and potatoes and cakes and sweets. Honestly, I'm not willing to give these things up. So this goal is not a good goal for me. Okay, you might be able to do it. I just can't with all the bread I'm eating. So that's it. These are the three criteria. So once you set a goal that is realistic and you're qualified for it and you really, really, really want it, I'm going to outline an acronym. I invented it yesterday that to remember the steps to get to your goal. I call it RESULT. Okay? So let's see what the letters mean. In order to get to your goal, what you need to do first is research and make a plan of how you need to get there. You then need to execute your plan, and then success. That's it. These are the three steps. Now I have 3 more letters to fill, so I had to invent something. So you either research, plan, execute, and get success, unless you're lucky enough that you get what you wanted with no planning or any hard work at all. Okay? Very, very memorable. Just use that in your life, and you see how you can get great results. Awesome. Enough with the chit-chat. Let's get to some actual examples. So back to my illustration. This is you. This is the goal. You have a goal that is realistic, and you're qualified, and you really want it. And what you need to do is to build a bridge, to bridge the gap by building your plan, researching, building your plan, and executing. Examples. Let's get to the interesting stuff. Anyone heard about Nina for Airbnb? Raise of hands. Wow, no one. Okay. So this is Nina, and Nina really, really wanted to work for Airbnb. That was her goal. She really wanted it. And first of all, before I start laying out the plan she made, let's see if this goal is realistic, if she's qualified, and if she really wants it. So as for realistic, there are people who work for Airbnb. They have open positions. They're recruiting, so it's realistic. It's something that a person can achieve. Is she qualified? You don't know her, but so let's assume for the purpose of this example that she's qualified. And did she really want it? I'm going to show you how much she wanted it. What Nina did, instead of just sending a resume to Airbnb and hope that she'll be invited to the interview and that she passes all the phases, she researched. First of all, she found out what type of positions there are, open positions. She was a marketer. She was into marketing and operations, and she found out there are some open positions for her role. And then she researched what kind of value can she bring to Airbnb. Nina is from the Middle East. She's from Jordan. And she, after a few, let's say, days of research, as she testified, she came up with the idea of what if Airbnb expanded to the Middle East? There aren't enough listings there. It's not well represented, the site itself, the service in the Middle East. So she built a site. She called it Nina for Airbnb. And she says there, I'm Nina, I really want to work there. I realize thousands of other talented people want to work there. And this is a plan that I created. This is the value I'll bring to the company if you hire me. And this is what she did. She basically laid out what's the current state of Airbnb, what's missing, laying out some of the countries out there, why it's important, how they should start to conquer the Middle East as well. Can it move to, she focused on Dubai specifically, some partnerships, some events in that area, why she created the site, why does she love Airbnb, and why does she belong there. And that's it. She created this site. She did a very thorough research. I assume it took her a few weeks, if not months. So that was the research and the plan. And then she executed on it. She wrote a tweet, and she said, here's my report on Airbnb in the Middle East, and she tagged the co-founders of Airbnb and their head of marketing. That was in May or April 2015. On the same day, a few hours after she uploaded this tweet, she got this reply back. Brian is one of the co-founders. And she said, "I'm reading it, very impressive." So that's a great success to her effort, right? I mean, it's amazing. And this was just the first block of a huge tower, you could say, because a few weeks after she created the site, she uploaded these numbers. She had almost 500,000 visitors, 14,000 LinkedIn views. That's crazy. In a few weeks since she uploaded the site, 2,000 emails and messages of support, global media coverage, an interview with Airbnb. Now, this is the important part, right? She got a lot more out of her work, but she got what she really wanted, an interview with Airbnb, and then another dozens of other interviews waiting to happen. People just want her to come over to work with them. So she had a goal that was realistic. She was qualified for it, apparently, and she really wanted it. She wanted it so much that she was willing to put all that effort for free. She didn't even know if they will read the report, but she really, really wanted it. So she spent that time on making the report. And basically, by researching, planning, and executing, she built the bridge from where she was to where she wanted to be. Eventually, she didn't go to Airbnb, by the way, but as I said, she had tons of other offers, and she chose something else. So you might think that this example is a bit extreme. I agree, it is. So let me show you some smaller examples of things I did and how I built a plan, and succeeded with what I wanted to do. Anyone knows what this is? What iPhone? 3GS. That's a 3GS. The year was 2010. I got the 3GS for the first time. And when I got it, when I held that device in my hand, I was mesmerized. It was amazing to me how good it felt, how good it looks. Look at it. It's like a small pebble. The UI itself, how well it responds to touch and gestures. It was amazing to me. And as soon as I had it, on the same day, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to build an app for the iOS. I want to be an iOS developer. Basically, that's what I said to myself on the same day. Now, at the time, I was working for a big company as a software engineer. So it's not like I had to start learning computer science and start everything from scratch. I had some programming knowledge. So I wanted to transform my knowledge and expand to iOS. So this is me, and this is my dream. Small dream, not very ambitious, but it's something I wanted and I didn't have yet. And let's see, is it a realistic dream? Can I do that? I assume I can. I'm qualified for it because I have some computer science knowledge. I know how to write code so I can learn iOS. And I wanted enough to invest time in it. Even though I have a full-time job, I wanted it enough so I would work in my day job from 9 to 5, let's say, and then from 5 until the late hours of the night, I'll sit down and read tutorials and learn how to write iOS apps. So I researched a bit, and I figured that the only thing you need in order to write iOS apps is a Mac and to learn Objective-C. Now, if any of you ever coded with Objective-C, if any of you know the language, you know that you're probably better off jumping into the chasm, right, instead of building a bridge over it. It's a horrible language, but I had to learn it because I wanted to write iOS, to learn iOS. So that wasn't very complicated. The research was fairly simple. The plan was to buy a Mac and start learning. That was easy to do. I bought a Mac Mini, a beautiful device, a beautiful thing. It was very cheap at the time. And that's what I did. I just started learning how to build iOS apps at night. I created this in a matter of days. It is in a hello world in an app. I was pleased with myself. I did it. I reached my goal. So as I said, it doesn't have to be a far-fetched desire or something unrealistic. That's all I wanted at the time. After I did that, I started dreaming big. I said, OK, I can do that. I can write hello world in an app. What's to stop me from creating a service or an app that everyone would use? That's what I wanted to do. So let's say, wait, this is not it. This is it. This is me, and I want to write an app, but not any app, not in a hello world. I want to write an app that people would use. I want to go in the street and encounter like a stranger that uses my app. That was my dream. That's what I wanted. This is what motivates me. As someone who's working for Facebook now, you can imagine that these are the things that really motivates me. I want my app to be used by many people. So at the time, I was dreaming small. I just wanted people around me that are not my friends to use my app. That was my goal. Let's see, is it realistic? Is it possible for people to download the apps that I create? I assume it is. Am I qualified? I was able to create an Hello World app, so I think I'm qualified to do that as well. Do I really want it? The answer was yes. I really, really wanted it. Basically, that's my motivation. I didn't have kids at the time, so I had tons of time, free time, you could say. And again, I would work in my day work from 9 to 5, and then when I got home at 5 p.m., I would just stay up and write, learn, try to see how I can make it happen, research, basically. So I knew what I wanted to do. And I wasn't certain yet how I can do it, because I didn't want to create a game. Creating games is hard, and there is no guarantee that someone will use it. It's a very tough market, the gaming industry. I didn't want to create just a utility app, like a to-do list or a calendar, because there were tons of them at the time. So what I did, I went over to a site called Alexa. It's like a similar web, if you're familiar with it. It ranks the top sites in the world, or a specific country, if you choose to. The top sites by entries. It looks like this, basically. This is a very modern UI. At the time, Alexa were not an Amazon company, but they did give you, for free, the ability to see the top entries. Again, the top sites, by how many people enter. So I looked at it, and I went over every entry in the Israeli sites, Israeli market. So there was Google, of course, on top, and Facebook, and Yahoo, and such. They were all at the top. And then somewhere around maybe place 50, I think, there was a very popular site. It was the Israeli post office. Many people go over to it to search for their packages, or detect, locate zip codes from addresses, or find branches, find post offices that are close to them. It was a very common use case. Their website didn't work at all on mobile. It was just a desktop site on the small screen, so it wasn't fit for mobile. And they didn't have an app. That's what I needed. A site with many entries that people use that doesn't have an app. So that's it. I did my research. I had a plan. I knew that if I create an app and upload it, people would use it. I was certain that they will do it. So I went ahead and did it. Now, apologies from all the designers in the crowd. I was a single engineer. I didn't have any support. The icons were stolen from a website somewhere. OK, this is what I created. It's in Hebrew, because I was aiming for the Israeli audience. You could track packages and find zip codes and locate a post office next to you. Basically, it did the most common use cases of what you would do in the site. And I did it. I created the app. I uploaded it to the App Store. And sure enough, after a few weeks, I saw several hundred downloads. I was ecstatic. I was very, very pleased with myself. And it gained some traction. I even contacted Israel Post, the company itself. It's a government company. And I told them, hey, I created this. Do you want to take over it for free? I didn't want any money. Or just put an icon in the site that you can download the app. I was even willing to share my code with them. Just take it and make it famous. So they said they can't do it. It doesn't work like that. We're a government office. Basically, they ignored me. They replied, but they didn't want the app. And as time went by, it became more popular, the app. Many people downloaded it. And then a friend of mine contacted me, and he said, I think you can't use the logo of Israel Post in your app. You're infringing on copyrights. And they'll sue you, basically, if you become more popular. and then you start making money out of it. There were no ads in the app. I wasn't making any money. But basically, he warned me. He said, you have to replace the logo. You can't do it. So I listened to him. I said, it makes sense. I don't want to get into trouble. And the first thing I did was change the name of the app. The name was Israel Post, as the name of the company. I changed it to the Post of Israel. I felt it's different enough so I wouldn't get sued. And then the logo, I switched. I said, OK, I won't be using the official logo. I'll use this. What were you thinking? You're saying to yourself right now. So I wasn't thinking. Basically, I said, there's no way Jaguar would notice. There's no way they would care. Even if they did notice, it's just a small app. No one would notice it. Sure enough, a few weeks after, I got this. Now, this is in Hebrew, so let me translate it to you. It doesn't say, hey, you won a new car. What it does say is what we call cease or desist. Basically, they're saying, if you don't stop using our logo in your app, we'll sue you, and you'll need to pay us a lot of money. So fine. I removed the app completely from the App Store, and I didn't want to mess with it anymore, right? I didn't have any other logo to infringe on and to update my app. So I just removed it completely from the App Store. And when I did, a funny thing happened. Israel Post themselves called me and said, hey, where's the app? So we're getting complaints from our users that the app isn't available. And I said, oh, it's great to hear from you. Here's how much it's going to cost you now. So eventually, I sold the app to Israel Post, and that was, for me, a great success. This is more than I ever dreamed of that could happen by just writing a small utility app. Also, at the time, if you look at the top utility apps in the Israeli App Store, it was ranked #1. I was very pleased with myself. I got what I wanted. Then an idea came to my mind, and I said, why am I thinking so small? Why don't I aim for the world? Why do I need an app or a utility just for the Israeli market? So I did exactly the same thing. I went over to Alexa, opened the top 100 sites in the world, and I went over them one by one. Who doesn't have an app? And it makes sense to have an app for their service. So you had all the big ones at the top, obviously, right? Google, Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo. There were many, many sites. And then somewhere, maybe it was, I don't know, place 90 or 100, there was a site called DeviantART. Any of you know it? Raise of hands. Oh, many of you. Awesome. I didn't know it at the time, I must admit. I just saw it there. I entered their site on my mobile device. I saw it was awful. I was happy. They don't have a mobile site. They didn't have an app on the App Store. So that was exactly what I needed. And they had 20 million entries per day. Or was it a day or month? I don't remember. It was a lot. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be there. So I did it, basically. Again, apologies to the designers in the crowd. I did work with the designer at the time, but he wasn't very successful. So this is what I created. Basically, it's an app. It's an interface that lets you access the art in DeviantArt, right? For those of you who don't know, it's a site for designers and photographers and sketch artists and so on. It lets you upload your art, and people can reply, and so on. So I did it. I created it with the ambition of selling it to DeviantArt eventually. While it was out there in the App Store, I was obviously tracking how many downloads it had. This is a chart that shows the amount of downloads. It's missing the numbers on the side. I'll share them in a second. There were some fluctuations. It was very popular at the beginning. Things happened. If you're interested what might cause the app to have more downloads and then lose traction, here are some of the events. In December 2013, I released the app for the first time. So immediately it got some attention. People downloaded it. Maybe, I would say, hundreds to the thousands of people downloaded the app. Then the second jump you see there is version 2. Every time I released a new version, there was an influx of downloads again. And then you see in January 2015, more or less, there is like a spike. Can anyone guess what happened there? Yes? What? A New Year? No, that's a good guess, though. Things happened during New Year. But what happened, unfortunately, DeviantArt decided to release their own app. And when they did it, I immediately got more downloads because people searched for their app, and they found mine as well. That was there for a longer time, had better ratings, it was known. So I got a few, like I think it was 1,000 downloads in a single day. For me, that was a lot. It was amazing. And then a few more things happened. A new version, again, some more downloads, and another version. Then eventually, as you can see, in April 2016, it goes down to 0. That's because I had to take down the app from the App Store. I got complaints. Apple got complaints from DeviantArt that I'm using private APIs, that I'm infringing on their copyrights, that I'm using logos that are used in their site. All of that was true, but I was still upset. And basically, my experiment, you could call it an experiment, might have failed. I didn't sell the app to DeviantArt, but I didn't really care because my goal was to have my app installed on people's devices. That's what I wanted. I wanted them to use my app. And then if at any time I meet someone who's a DeviantArt fan and I ask him, hey, did you download, are you aware of the app? Did you download it? He say, yes, I love it. For me, this was like my dream coming true. Now, the steps I took there, each step wasn't that ambitious, in my eyes at least. Like writing an app is not that difficult, and uploading to the App Store is very easy. Maybe not easy. Apple like to put some burden on you when you try to upload an app, but it's doable. And then getting the word out there, it's also easy. I was working for Facebook at the time. I knew how to publish to get people to know of the existence of the app. So I knew what to do in order to get my app in the hands of all these people. Eventually, I got over 100,000 downloads. This is the exact number. Can anyone guess how much money I made out of it? It was a freemium, a free app, but you need to pay $2 to upgrade for the Pro version. Guess, raw numbers? Almost. Or guess? No. So that's very, very generous of you. I only made $10,000 out of it. But again, I didn't care. This was not my goal. I wasn't trying to strike gold. I wasn't trying to get rich of an app that was a gateway to another service that I didn't own. I just wanted people to use it. So again, this was me. I wanted to create an app. My goal was realistic. I was qualified to do it, and I really wanted it. I invested tons of time and many sleepless nights into it, and I was able to bridge the gap by basically planning and executing. Next, where am I? Oh, back. Next thing I wanted to do was write a book. Don't ask me why, I really, really wanted it. I wanted to, I know I love speaking in front of live audience, I love teaching, I love writing tutorials. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to just get it out there, share knowledge with others. So let's begin with the usual inspection of the goal. Is it realistic? It is. People are writing books and publishing and releasing them. Again, it's not something that is flying to Mars, right? Am I qualified? I thought I was. I had some experience by that time with writing iOS apps. I was a freelancer for a while. I had a few years of experience by the time I decided I want to write a book. And did I want it? Let's assume I did. I really wanted to write a book. I was willing to give up on other things to make that happen. So I researched, and I tried to figure out what is it I need to do to write a book, to publish a book. So it might not surprise you. You need several things. You need money. You need a lot of time. You need to find a publisher that is willing to publish your book, right? But I would say that time is the biggest factor here. You need to put a lot of time, many days, weeks, probably months to get a book published, to finish writing everything and publishing it. Unfortunately, if we take a look at the wanted criteria of the goal. I didn't want it that bad that I was willing to give up on all that time. Again, I'm talking about months here. I didn't want it that much. So what I thought about doing, again, to reach my goal, was why don't I join an existing project, an existing book project, and join some other authors, and let's publish a book together. That still qualifies as reaching my dream. At the time, I was part of, I still am actually, part of a team of a site called Ray Wenderlich. Some of you probably know it. I wrote a few tutorials for the site. And they were publishing books periodically, every time something interesting happened. And luckily for me, very soon after I decided I want to write a book, Apple released the Swift language, which is a complete new way to write iOS apps, a new language to write iOS apps instead of the Objective-C I mentioned before. And we knew it's going to be very popular. We knew people will buy the book if we write it, if we publish it. And soon enough, after this happened, I got an email from one of the workers of Ray Wenderlich. He was a full-time worker at the time. He said, hey, we're looking for authors for this book. Obviously, I wrote him before, right? Like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months before, that if any time a chance comes up, I want to be a part of it. So he wrote back and he said, if you're still interested, we're looking for authors, and it's going to be a team of 6 authors that are going to do it. That was exactly what I needed. I'll be able to reach my dream with investing the amount of time that makes sense to me. It's just a few chapters, and everyone's happy. And that's what I did. I executed on my plan, basically. I sat down, took a few chapters, wrote them down, and then we published a book. It's called Swift Apprentice. This is the cover of the 4th edition already. It's been running for 4 years. But that's it. I chose a goal that wasn't impossible to reach. I planned my way to get there. Like, I knew what I wanted to do without investing too much time. I built the bridge, and I made it, basically. Last example, before I have 3 more minutes. I really, really wanted to live abroad. If any of you are Israelis, you probably know why. It's like a dream for everyone who lives in Israel to go live somewhere else. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But I really wanted to live abroad, more specifically in the US. It was a dream of mine. And again, asking myself the usual question, is it realistic? Yes, people live there. Am I qualified? I don't know, I speak English, so I guess I can do it. I was also, again, a software engineer, so I know companies from the US are searching for software engineers from around the world, and I really wanted it. I wanted it so much that I was willing to leave friends and family behind, right? This is the kind of wanted I'm talking about. You need to really want it, that you're willing to spend less time with your family and friends, for example. And I did, in that case. But here, I must admit, before I had time to research and plan and execute my plan, I just got lucky. I had an updated LinkedIn profile, and I got this LinkedIn message from a recruiter at Facebook. Basically, she reached out and said, hi, we're looking for engineers. You might be interested, and reach out. So I did, and that was the beginning of a very long journey, after which I flew over with my wife to the US. We lived there for a few years and then returned back home. So if you would have told me, it was almost 10 years ago when I started this journey, you could say, that I would learn how to write iOS apps, I'll write a book, I'll live abroad, I work for Facebook for so long, I would have said, hey, you're crazy, it's not going to happen. But when you think about it, when I laid out the path I went on to get there, it's not that crazy. I mean, I didn't do anything that was out of the ordinary. I just took minor steps, minor milestones that helped me get there, and some luck. I must admit, luck is always a factor. You can't do anything to enforce luck. There's this story about a person, a religious person, that wanted to win the lottery. I guess most of you know the story. He was praying every night, please God, I want to win, please help me, I want to win the lottery. And then after a few months of begging, he said, that's it, I renounce my religion, I no longer believe in God. Then God revealed before him and he said, dude, buy a lottery ticket first. Right, so luck doesn't show up in your doorstep. You need to help luck find you. So that's what I did. That's it. Last slide, I promise, or before last. I have another dream. I'm going to share it with you right now. Again, I can't really explain why. I just really, really want it. Now, this is ambitious. I'm telling you in advance. Where is it? I want to give a TED Talk. I don't know why. I can't explain. I saw tons of TED Talks. I want to do it as well. I don't need a reason. I just need it to be realistic. Is it realistic? I think it is. I mean, people give TED Talks, so I can do it as well. Am I qualified? Not yet. There's still some work to do. I'm not a doctor, not a scientist. I haven't climbed the Everest. I'll need to do something. I don't have the entire plan laid out yet, but I really want to do it. I want to get there. Do I want it? I want it. I really want it. Not enough to stop everything and start learning, medicine school. I don't want it that much. I don't want it that much that I'll go climb the Everest, but I want it, and I'll find a way to get there. And one of the steps for me to get there is talking in front of a live audience like yourself. So you just helped me get closer to my dream. So thank you for that.
All right. So we've got time just for a few questions. So one of the top ones right now, and if you don't remember, just go to that URL right there in your browser, and you can ask a question or vote on others. Any tips for reaching your goals when you have very little time, e.g. having children?
Yes, so some of the goals I reached were while having 2 kids, and it's hard, I admit. Again, there is like a weight here, how much time you invest versus how much you spend time with your kids. So you need to come to terms with the fact that if you want something that is far-fetched while you have kids, you can't get there. It will just take you longer. That's the truth. Just make small steps, like milestones along the way, that each one of them is reachable in a reasonable amount of time, and eventually they pile up and you get to where you want it. There's no magic here. You just need to work hard, sleep less, I would say.
When you created the post office app, did they provide you a public API, or did you find some other way to build it?
Yeah, that's a long story. There was no public API. I did what you would call HTML scraping. That's awful, don't ever do it. Basically, I would find elements in the HTML representation of the page and extract the text elements. But there was no API. It was a very bad job. The app would break every few weeks because they changed the layout of the site, right? But that's what I had to work with. So.
Sometimes we have a goal and then we start to see that we're actually not getting closer there. Have you ever had to give up on a goal, and how did you manage that?
Yes, like the six-pack example. I wanted it. I tried exercising to go towards my goal, but then I realized that it doesn't go, as I said, it doesn't go hand in hand with the nutrition I had or still have. Right? I love bread. I can't live without bread. So I gave up. And I can give you other examples. I really wanted to manage in Facebook. I wanted to be an engineering manager. And I had a plan of how to get there. I knew exactly what are the requirements. And after a few years of trying, I actually made it. I was an engineering manager for a while. I managed 10 engineers. But I must admit, I wasn't that good at it. I wasn't qualified, as I would say, for this role. So after a year and a half, I just went back to being an IC, an engineer, you would say. So that happens. It's fine fulfilling your dreams and then realizing it's not what you wanted, or not being able to reach them, and then adjusting your dream to something that makes more sense. I mean, it's just the way life is. You can't reach all your dreams.
Would you recommend to somebody trying to become an aspiring iOS developer or an app developer as a good starting point to see like a small business or somebody else in town to see if they want or need an app?
Oh, again, do I recommend it? Yes, I mean, that's what I do for a living, so it will be really hypocrite of me not to recommend it. I love what I do. I love building apps. I think the world is in a stage where apps are like the gateway for everyone to everything, basically, right? Everyone uses apps all the time. So if someone is interested into like exploring this world, start small, right, with something that is feasible for a single person to do, and then see if you're interested enough in it, find a job. I highly recommend. I think it's a great market to be in.
And we don't have much time, but maybe two more. One about what step in the process do you evaluate and you say, am I getting closer or not? And when do you decide to actually give up and move on to a new goal?
Yeah, so every few days, it depends on how far the goal is, right? Writing a book felt to me like it was very far-fetched. So I didn't examine how close am I to it every few days. So it depends on the goal, but for something that I have a plan already, I'll revisit it every few days to see if I'm on my way there, if I'm getting closer. Like when I wanted to be an engineering manager, I knew what I needed to do. There were specific axes in which I needed to perform really well in order to be an engineering manager. So every few days to weeks, I reevaluated, am I doing a good job? Am I on the right track? And when I felt like I didn't, of course, I talked to my manager at the time. I made the necessary adjustments. So I made sure I stay focused on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to get.
And last question, when you decide that you do have to give up on a goal, you know, it's going to affect your motivation. How do you get up and decide to move on to a next one and keep positive about that?
Yeah, so this goes to the territory of the things I'm cynical about, like I need to bring some inspirational quote, right? Get back on the horse, try again. So no, it happens. You might fail sometimes. I think the best thing to do is to set a new goal. As soon as you fail, just find something else you really want to do, something that feels doable. And it will, I'm positive it will give you, like, it will cheer you up and give you motivation to try again and do it.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.